afternoon. My name is Bob Gibbs. I'm glad to see you all here today. Just a quick little background. I live up in Holmes County. I've been married to my wife, who's in the audience here today, for 34 years, and been in Holmes County for 35 years. I've been self-employed since 1978, small businessman, farmer. I like to say I've written on both sides of a paycheck. That means I've created some jobs and hired work, helped people get work. In that time span, I've also been president of the Ohio Farm Bureau. I worked up through the ranks, and then in 03, 02, my local Holmes County Republican Party asked me to run for the open seat in the Ohio House, and I was successful, and now I'm currently a state senator from the 22nd District. The reason I'm running for the U.S. Congress is because I'm very concerned with the direction this country's headed. Simply I like to say we can't spend and borrow ourselves to prosperity. And when you look at the national federal net deficit, budget deficit, and the borrowing, and where we're headed, it's very scary. It's economic demise, and our freedoms are at risk, our national security is at risk, and we got to turn this around. And what's happening, Washington is passing policies and initiating policies that are creating huge uncertainty. And when I meet with employers every day, they're all kind of sitting on their hands because they're scared to death of where we're moving in the economic future. And so they're not investing in their businesses, they're not hiring people, and they're not creating jobs. And we've got to get that confidence back. And the way we get that confidence back is really three ways. One, we've got to get our fiscal house in order. We can't keep unspending and borrowing money like this. We've got to get the deficit down. We've got to roll back these massive tax increases, keep more money in risk takers' pockets, the entrepreneurs, and restore innovation. And number three, we've got to reform our regulatory structure where we have regulations that we need in a free market capitalist system, but they got to make common sense and economic sense. They just can't create more uncertainty. And unfortunately, our Congress here a couple weeks ago, they adjourned for the election season, and they created some more uncertainty because they didn't address the largest tax increase coming January 1st. And that is going to be a disaster if that's allowed to go, if the increase is allowed to take effect. And so that just creates more uncertainty, and we need to get back to where people who want to risk that capital are risk takers. Because if we don't have people risking capital and creating jobs, there's no jobs and opportunities. And there's really three ways that happens. One is we develop our natural resources responsibly, we mine or drill for it. Number two, we raise or grow it, agriculture. Or number three, we manufacture it, we make it, manufacturing. And when you think about all the policies coming out of Washington, with a cap and trade policy that artificially raises energy costs, higher taxes, higher costs, that is putting barriers up against our risk takers to create prosperity and get people back to work. And without doing that, we don't do that, we don't have jobs and opportunities. And that's what it's all about, because our national security is at risk and our God-given constitutional freedoms are at risk too if we don't get this turned around. So thank you for coming out today, and look forward to your support in 2 weeks, a little over 2 weeks. And if I have the privilege to represent you in Congress, I'm committed to do that job done and get confidence back to get back to work. Thank you.
Now let's hear from Zanesville.
Hello, everybody. I'm Zach Space, and I'm seeking your support for what would be my third term. But we're at a very difficult moment in our history, and all of us sense that. I think that's one of the reasons there's so much anxiety in this country right now, one of many. The decisions that we make in those 2 weeks that Bob referenced, 15 days from today, not counting today, will affect us for a long time. And I think you should know where we stand on some of these ideological issues that Bob raises. Things like, what do we do with taxpayer money? How should we spend it? How should we handle Social Security? How should we deal with international trade? Areas where Bob and I have a pretty significant disagreement. But you should also think about something else, and that is, what is our plan? Does the candidate or the current member of Congress have a plan to get us out of this mess? I hope that today, during some questioning, we'll be able to elaborate further on some of these things. But look, we have, in the last 8 months, lowered unemployment in this district 23%. Still far too high. We're working on it. We're moving in the right direction. We are in the process now. We announced 2 weeks ago the largest solar field in the United States is coming to Muskegon County with 600 jobs, perhaps even more. we announced a month, maybe 6 weeks ago, over $100 million of your money is coming back to you in the form of broadband money. It will bridge this divide that exists between our areas in rural Ohio and suburban and urban areas to give us a fighting chance. We're investing in schools. We're prioritizing seniors. We're helping veterans. These aren't vague demagoguery. Who doesn't want to lower taxes, reduce spending, and get bureaucrats off our back? We all do. But we have to have a plan. And suggesting that for somehow or another cap and trade, the terminology that Mr. Gibbs uses for efforts in the direction of a comprehensive energy policy, has in some way or another affected this economy is ludicrous. It's not a law. I'd like to see a comprehensive policy on energy, rather than have the BPs of the world and the Exxon Mobils of the world dictate our energy policies. In essence, this race comes down to two things. We move forward with policies designed to invest in Americans that are working, or you go back to the policies of George Bush that have proven to be a failure. Thank you.
And now our last candidate for representative U.S. Congress 18th District, Lindsey Sutton.
I am Lindsey Sutton. I'm the Constitution Party candidate for U.S. Congress. I am from Holmes County. I moved to Ohio following my 20-year career in the United States Air Force. I was born actually in Harrison County, West Virginia. I'm in this race for a specific reason, and that is our country's in trouble. And it's in trouble in many different ways. We understand it. I'll give you an example. When I started into this race, which was less than a year ago, we had a 12-point-something trillion dollar national debt. Well, now it's 14 trillion. I mean, if you watch the national debt clock and watch the numbers tick by, it's just unbelievable. And we have a 1.5 trillion, 1.4, 1.5 trillion dollar budget deficit. We have the attenuation of our states' rights. We have infringement upon our individual liberties. And these are symptoms of what the real problem is. And the real problem is we no longer follow the U.S. Constitution. And it's just about that simple. Congressman Space says you got to have a plan. I have a plan. Anybody that wants to go to my website can read that plan. At the bottom of that, my first page on my website, there's a button that clicks you to that plan. It's called the U.S. Constitution. Thank you.